Welcome to Perth's #1 podcast. This is the Jamo and Dylan Show.
Incredible. Thank you for joining us. That is my father, the one and only Jon Lennon. We're happy to have you here today.
Our first live introduction as well. Thank you.
You've been doing the show for 4 years or something like that, haven't you?
Nearly 5 in October.
5 years, yeah.
Yep.
And I hear it. I'm downstairs and I hear the show and here I am, actually on it.
Yeah,
Got the voice of the show on.
We'd like to say thank you for allowing us to do the show here because we know not everyone has that luxury. So, yeah, we thank you for that.
And you've got luxury of 2 rooms. You've got the winter room and the summer room, which is a bit cooler.
Yep. Up in the winter room at the moment for those watching on YouTube. And, yeah, we're very privileged and honoured to have you on today. You are a man of many talents, we'd like to say. And how would you describe yourself in a few words?
Well, I'm just an ordinary person who's done extraordinary things.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's magic. Yeah. What a quote.
We've got a few things to go through today as well.
Yes.
So we'll start off right at the start. So we'll go upbringing all the way through to all the different jobs you've had and the things you've done.
Life.
And I also have a younger sister called Bridie, and she sent through a few things that some of these stories I've never heard, but you've told her.
Right.
So
there we go.
you'll be able to go through those. But let's just start off with your upbringing. So your parents, who unfortunately never got to meet. Yep. So we'll just go through your parents, where you grew up, and your family as well, brothers and sisters.
Okay. So, well, I have Peter, who's unfortunately deceased. That's my elder brother. Sally and Vicky, my sisters. They're still alive in Perth, alive and kicking, going well. Myself, obviously. Then mum and dad, both... Dad died in 1977, Mum died in 1980, so a long time ago. But, I was brought up in Gosnells. We had the news agency in Gosnells. Fantastic upbringing. We had 2 acres, and you guys know exactly where it is because it's where Red Rooster is down at Gosnells.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Red Rooster, the fish and chip shop and the Domino's Pizza.
Yeah. So that's where you live?
That's where we lived.
Oh, wow.
And it went from the highway right down to the river. So it was a couple of acres.
Was that all residential back then, that whole area?
It was more rural, I think they called it.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah.
So we had the excitement of the highway because there was always something happening on the highway because there was accidents and all that sort of thing. And we had the shop, which was interesting because so many people would come into the shop and I'd be in there reading all the comics and all that sort of stuff. And then down the back we had horses, we had ducks, and we had a sheep at one stage, and then went right down to the river. So I spent all my time playing down by the river where there's a playground down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic upbringing. It was incredible.
So you lived in Gosnells, but you weren't born there. Where were you born?
No, I was born in Gosnells.
Oh, you were born in Gosnells?
Yeah. Well, I was actually officially born in Cottesloe.
Right.
Because we came from Swanbourne.
Yeah.
Only about a kilometre from where Claremont Oval is, near Scotch College, in Saunders Street. But then Dad, 1952, I was born in 55, in 1952 an offer came up to buy a news agency, which was a big job because not only have you got the shop, you've got the paper round as well.
Was it something that he had experience in before? Or
No, I think he just wanted to be able to go out and be successful to do his own thing. He had a multitude of different jobs. So he took that on in about 1952. They were on the corner down across the road from the bowling green where the IGA shopping centre was.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's where they started, Greenwood's Corner. And Mum said it was terrible down there because there was nowhere there was just a couple of rooms out the back of the shop and stuff like that. And then he built his own shop and house down at where Red Rooster is in Gosnells. So no, it's fantastic.
And that's just something that I wanted to touch on was the fact that your family obviously ran the news agency in Gosnells, and then you were actually living out the back just in a couple rooms, was it? Or was it a house?
No,
on
we
the
had
back?
a proper house once we moved from down by the corner. We had a house, but there was 2 bedrooms inside the house and then there was a couple of sleep outs.
Right.
And, I always laugh when I hear the kids say, oh, it's cold and stuff. I was living in a sleep out.
Yeah.
It was just louvers and stuff. So this sort of how cold it is here now is nothing compared with what we went through because there was no insulation. You just had a tin roof but it was fun.
Yeah. And you were the youngest of 4. What was it like being the youngest?
Oh, yeah, it was good. Yeah, I didn't have anybody close to me in age. My sister was 5 years older. So no one really to play with like that. But you meet all your mates at school and things like that.
And one thing that I envy is when you talk about growing up just around that Gosnells area and all the friends you had, especially in the younger years through primary school and stuff. Like you still know a lot of these people now.
Yeah. Well, Louis Milstead is one of my best mates now, and we met when we were 60 years we've known each other.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's incredible. And then high school came around and you went to Wesley College in South Perth.
Yeah, I went to Wesley College. I probably would have preferred to go to Armidale High School with my mates, but my parents were trying to give me the best education they could, but I wasn't a great student. I was sort of more into sport and stuff like that. And then was 2 buses we'd have to catch to get to South Perth. One down the highway, another one across to South Perth. But didn't really. I love primary school.
Yep.
A lot of kids do. With all the sport and stuff like that. I was a cricket captain in primary school, played in the footy team. We won the grand finals in year 7 in both of those. Then I went to high school or to college and didn't really enjoy it that much, but it was still a good experience.
Yeah. So if you could do it all again, would you change anything or would you stay at that school?
Oh, no. Well, I don't know. I might have gone to Armidale and not like that. I don't know. So, I didn't. I mean, a lot of my friends came from the primary school, not so much the high school.
Yeah,
nice.
And you loved your sport growing up, obviously, as you just said. So your footy and cricket were your main two, and you played those even out of school as well. So like when you finished high school, you were still playing footy at Gozzy Footy Club. What was that experience like?
Oh, great. Yeah, I loved that. I loved playing with all my mates, and in juniors we actually weren't that good. We weren't that strong. I remember playing against Armidale. They had Brian Cousins, Ben Cousins' dad, and Frank Catalini, who played for Claremont, and Gary Malarkey, that played for Geelong, all playing in their like under 16 side, and we used to beat by about 30 goals. But no, it was fun. I enjoyed that. I used to play for Wesley like on a Friday afternoon, then Gosnells like on a Saturday or something like that. But then once you get to year 12 or year 11, they want you to play for Wesley on a Saturday, and I didn't want to play for Wesley. I want to play for Gosnells on a Saturday. So they weren't very happy when I chose to play for my home side.
Yeah. Would you get a decent crowd at the games during those days?
Juniors. No. When I played seniors, we used to get cars parked all the way around the oval.
Yeah, it seemed like people were, even the way my dad talks about footy growing up, he was born in 58, so similar era to you. It seemed that everyone was connected more, I guess, because it was only the waffle, and then so you were a lot closer to your local team because that's sort of, I guess, the second best you get.
Well, the competition was fantastic because this is all the local teams.
Yeah.
Armidale, Kelmscott, Gosnells, Maddington, Thornley, Kenwick, just those sides there. So it was a real rivalry because you'd see these guys during the week as well, so it was fantastic.
That's another thing I think we both envy was just the local footy scene back then.
100%.
Obviously, it was called the Sunday Footy League, was it?
Yeah, Sunday Footy League.
Yeah, and I guess that competition has died out and there's a lot more teams spread across Western Australia now, but no, it's something that I wish you
don't really have that rivalry anymore. I know you're talking about Kenwick playing Canning Vale the other day. Thornley playing Canning Vale, and that was like a big rivalry, So we used to have that every week because we were always playing against people we knew.
Yeah, and 1981, one of the best years of your life, was it?
Yeah. For 2 reasons, actually.
Yep.
In 1981, I played in a premiership, and I was 26 then, so I'd been around for a while. I'd played in a couple of reserves premierships, which we'd lost. Then 81, we played against Mandurah, where we hadn't beaten all year.
Yeah.
Played him in the grand final and beat him by 10 goals.
Nice.
So, and it was a Gosnells Oval as well. Big crowd, I don't know, a couple of thousand people at least. Around the ground, and that was a special day because I'd been at the club for so long.
Yeah.
To experience that. I remember being in tears as I came off the ground. And so it was a great memory.
Yeah. And then you obviously growing up having that allegiance to Claremont and that area.
Well, it's funny you talk about 1981 because they won the premiership that year as well.
There you go. And I assume you were there as well.
That was when the Cracker Brothers and all these guys were playing.
Yeah. So these are all, for those who don't know, who are around the world in our sport that we love and adore, the AFL.
Yeah, this is all AFL related.
Yeah, this is the Waffle, which was the West Australian League.
It was the highest league back then. There was
at the grand final, there'd be like 50,000 at Subiaco Oval, which actually used to hold more in the old days before it was revamped.
Subi was cool.
Yeah.
Subi was cool.
And then moving away from sport, a bit of a somber note here, but both of your parents unfortunately passed away when you're in your 20s.
Yep. So 22 and 25, I think.
Yeah. And then you took over the news agency, didn't you?
Yeah, I was already working in the news agency. It was a family business. And then Dad passed away, and then I was in it. Mum used to come down, some days and help out and stuff like that. Yeah, but eventually Mum got cancer and she passed away as well. So then I kept on running it.
And then you hosted an event at the Gozzy Footy Club. Now, what year was this? How old were you when this thing happened that ultimately changed the course of your life?
Yeah, well, so I was at the shop until 83, I think I left.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would have been around about that time, about the 82, 83 mark. Yeah. And I wasn't even supposed to be hosting there was a players' review at the football club. I wasn't supposed to be hosting it. But Chucky, who was the coach, was going to do it. I was doing some acts during the night, some commercials and things like that. And then he got held up. I think he missed his flight in Melbourne or something like that. So all of a sudden I was sort of thrust into doing it. And I'd never done anything like that before. And, yeah, the night went well and everything. And then I just had a couple of girls who were sitting there watching, and they just said, "This is what you should be doing."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, this is what you should be doing. You should be hosting events like this. You're just wasting your time at the shop."
Yeah.
And that planted the seed.
And then you just started from
Yeah,
there.
I thought, okay.
Give it a go.
I'd never really even thought about it before.
Yeah.
And that sort of planted the seed, and I thought, well, okay, how do I get into this?
And do you wonder if those two girls had never said anything, if you'd still be working in the shop? Well, not today, but like...
No, well, maybe not. But I think you get to a stage where you think, well, I want to just see what I'm good at, what I can do.
Mm. So how old were you when you did that? That first show, I guess?
Well, 1984 was when I first started doing shows, and what it was a guy at the football club was having his engagement party.
Nice.
And a mate of mine, Dale Chaplin, he was DJing, but his father and him had just bought a restaurant, so he couldn't DJ anymore because restaurants Saturday nights, that's their busiest night. So I said to Glenn, the guy having his engagement, "Well, I'll do it," and I used Chapo's all his records, the old console with the two turntables, all that sort of stuff. So I just used that, and then I got bookings from that night.
Yeah.
Did you have any experience in DJing before that?
No, none at all.
Yeah.
I'd hosted like a quiz night for the footy club and stuff like that. It wasn't very professional, just mucking around.
And was it fairly easy to pick up, or did it take a bit of time?
No, it wasn't too bad. It was actually just had those little 7-inch singles. Okay. And we'd have hundreds and hundreds of those. I'm so in awe of the DJs these days because they just go with a memory stick with 4,000 songs on there and they just stick it in, whereas we had to cart everything around. So no, it wasn't that hard. Then I picked up every Wednesday night at a tavern, Sun River Tavern in Gosnells. I think I had 3 months. They booked you for 3 months, and there was a DJ there who had all his equipment there, but he only used to work on the Friday and Saturday nights. He didn't want to work on Wednesdays, so I started doing that. And his advice to me was just play the stuff the girls like.
Okay,
don't give a stuff about the blokes.
Because if the
girls, all we want is girls there.
If the girls are having fun, then the
girls
guys
are there,
will come.
and all the blokes will rock up the next week. So
yeah. And then moving on to what you did next. So I've got a list of some of the jobs you have, but I'm not sure in which the order they are. Yeah. So you were DJing and you were picking up these shows.
Yeah.
And what were these shows? What did they entail? What were you actually doing? Was it just DJing or was it...
mainly DJing, a little bit of MCing, like if you started doing weddings and stuff like that. You'd MC the wedding and DJ the wedding. There's a variety of shows. Plus I'd start picking up a few... like just comparing gigs, doing them as well, which that's what I really preferred doing.
Right.
The DJ was more of a way to get into it, but then I DJ'd for 30 years. So
is that comparing gigs as in there's a band playing and you're coming up in between the sets and stuff? Or?
Yeah, or I might do, there might be a football awards night or something like that. So I'd host that and introduce all the speech makers and present the trophies and then they'd have the Bowden Medal count. I did that a couple of times, which is the best player in the Sunday Football League. I did those a few times as well.
Were those nerve-wracking? Because you said just before we started this, you're admittedly a little bit nervous.
Yeah, so I'm nervous any show I do.
Yeah.
And I've done well over 3,000 live shows.
And I've seen a few of these live, and you wouldn't notice it though. Like from people in the crowd, they don't understand that you do get a bit nervous, but in general, you come across quite confident.
Yeah, I think, well, you guys would be nervous. Even every morning or every Friday or Thursday, whenever you're doing the show, you'd get that little bit nervous just beforehand. But like I was explaining, when I do my shows, I've got computers, I've got PA systems, I've got, like I'm doing a video show, and I'm thinking, is the computer going to freeze, or is the PA system something going to go wrong? So that's more, I'm not worried about my performance, I'm more worried about the equipment.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on your time at Atlantis. So how did this come about, and how old were you when it started, and what was Atlantis for those who don't know?
Just before we go to Atlantis, so in 84, I sold the shop in 83, the business in 83. I remember going to the 84 VFL, it was called then, grand final, Essendon versus Hawthorn.
Who won that game?
Essendon. A good big game too. They came home and kicked back 6 goals in the last quarter.
And was that your first time in Victoria?
Yes, would have been, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, went to the States in 79.
Who'd you go to the VFL grand final with?
With Shooky, my mate, who was the coach of Gosnells. So we went to the grand final there. We stayed at the same hotel as the actual Essendon team who won the grand final. So we're in the same hotel. And
did you have a preferred team to win that game, or not really?
Not really. I mean, it was Leon Baker, who kicked a couple of goals in the last quarter, came from Bunbury, from WA. Yeah. So you sort of follow the Western Australian players. Tony Bahaja, I don't think he was playing in that game. He was a rover, and I'd actually played on him in a game when I was playing for Wesley.
Tough to play on?
He just ran. He was just like a little mouse. It just kept on running and running and running. I couldn't keep up with him.
Like Rog, a little mouse.
So that was 84. Then as I said, I was trying to work out what I wanted to do. I thought, well, I've got to earn some money, because just DJing one night a week's not going to earn you much sort of money if you get a function or a couple of functions on the weekend. So then I did a diploma in phys ed to be a fitness instructor. So then I got a job at the gym down at, it was called Laurie Potter's back in those days, in Cannington. So I worked at the gym for 3 years before I went to Atlantis.
Right. And how was your time at the gym?
That was great fun. Yeah, I did aerobics. I took water aerobics. I did fitness exercises. I did a lot of different things. So.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of lane as what you were doing before, but just in a fitness aspect. So you were still like entertaining and hosting these type of classes, right?
Yeah. You'd be up there, and you'd be the sort of person that everybody's looking up to for guidance and how to do different things and stuff like that. So no, that was good fun, and I enjoyed that.
So you did 3 years there, and then how did you get into the gig at Atlantis?
Okay, so that was advertised,
right?
And when I was it was funny. I was driving up there, and I'm in my work uniform, which is a Laurie Potter's uniform, blue and white. It was blue and white striped top, white pants. Would you believe?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like that.
Yeah. And I was driving up there. I thought, this is ridiculous, because I live like 90 kilometres from Two Rocks.
Yeah.
Because it's not just Yanchep. Two Rocks is sort of another 5 or 6 k's up the road. Anyway, so you go in there. There's a couple of guys that actually change staff, and some people from Queensland, from SeaWorld, had come over,
right? And
they were running it. And then you have to do an audition. A lot of my jobs have been auditions. So you go in there, they give you the script, and it was the show they were doing was right out there. It was a Legend of the Incas, and all the words were sort of, it was incredible.
Was it almost like a different type of language, some of those words?
Basically, yeah, some of it was. And so I said, well, can I stand up to do this? And I think they liked that, because some people obviously just sat down. Anyway, so I just gave it my best, and then I got a call back a few days later for another interview, and I thought, well, I'm getting close. So that would have been probably 100 people went for it.
Yeah.
So then must have been down to the final 2 or 3, but the uniform that they were going to get was nearly exactly what the uniform that I wore up there.
Oh, really?
So maybe it helped in a way. They saw you in the uniform. Yeah,
you had to be, because the show that you did was you were. I was like a king of the Incas or something, and so I had like. Loincloth on and these sort of Tarzan Speedos with all this other stuff.
Is this the golden outfit? Do we have a photo of that?
Yeah, you would have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You can pop it up when you edit the show.
Were you in peak physical condition at that stage of your life?
I was working the gym.
Yeah.
And I was doing aerobics and all this sort of stuff. I was still playing footy as well. So I was in pretty good shape, and I had the uniform on which they were basically going to get. So
well, they've got the image in their head when they're watching the audition.
And then they rang me up, and it was funny because the gym was starting to crash. Eventually it stopped. And then it was about 2 weeks before it stopped that I was actually, they rang me and they said, "Oh, you've got the job." And I thought, I was just wrapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a job to go.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it was a job that I really wanted to do. So.
And how many days a week was that?
5. Yeah, I worked 5. I did it for probably about 6 months, doing it 5, because there was another compere as well who did the other 2 days. And then because of the travel factor, I went down to 3.
Yeah.
And then we employed another compere, which I sat in on the audition process. And then I would work 3 and that person would work 5, and we'd have a crossover day.
Nice.
And then can you just explain what Atlantis was for the people who have no idea?
Okay. Atlantis Marine Park was like a SeaWorld.
Yeah.
Like if you've been to a SeaWorld in San Diego or SeaWorld in Queensland. But we had one of the best dolphin shows in the world. It was incredible. And people, they interview people after the show, and they would say that as well.
Yeah.
We had a sea lion show, which virtually you were an actor in. So you'd be a character. And I was always the baddie, which was great.
Yeah.
So all the kids and everything, everybody boo me and all that sort of stuff. It was really good fun.
You liked it getting booed?
Yeah, no, that was the whole idea.
Lapped it up.
Yeah, you'd lap it up. You're trying, but you're being funny as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's all these little things you do. I had the show that I was doing, I had Limp. My name was Buster Bumboil.
Yeah.
And
I remember when I was a kid.
sea lion hunter.
Sea lion hunter?
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah, the kids would have been horrified.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, sorry, the camera cut out, guys. But yeah, what I was saying was when I was a kid, I remember you'd show me the 2 characters and the voice you'd put on and the limp you'd do. And I could kind of create this image of what you did back then in my head.
Yeah.
I've still got those shows on videotape.
Nice.
So they're always there. I've still got compares from 30 years ago who, not compares, sorry, the trainers who would contact me and ask if I've got any copies.
Wow, how good is
I had one
that?
last year. And he wanted a copy of the last show, the very last day Atlantis was open.
Yeah, so how long did you work there for, and then why did Atlantis close?
Okay, so I worked there from 87. We did 3 different dolphin shows. We changed them over every year if we could. And 3 different sea lion shows, completely different shows, different characters. The reason it closed was that the female dolphins got pregnant, and that meant a huge expansion because they've got to build bigger areas for the dolphins, and the park wasn't making money anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. During the winter, you get no one there.
Yeah.
And you still got to feed the dolphins, you still got to pay the trainers, you still got to pay the compares.
Yeah.
It just wasn't making money, so they couldn't see how it was feasible to keep going.
But was it busy in the summertime?
Yeah, it was great.
Packed, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, The last day, obviously, was packed. The grandstand was packed and there was thousands of people there. But, in summer, it was really busy. But in winter, we just rely on the tourist bus.
Because it seems like it's something Perth would need even now. That would be.
It was great. It was too
definitely
far
in
out.
summer.
If it was down at
the location, right?
Yeah. If it was Fremantle, it might still be going.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit too far out.
Because the old remnants of it are cool. Like me and Carly drove up there once, and you can still see the big Zeus.
Big Neptune.
Yeah, Neptune. Yeah.
But it's sad. It's sad for me.
Yeah.
Because I remember what it was like.
The good days.
And it was the best job I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, you're working out in the sun every day. You're with everybody. We used to just muck around in between shows. Obviously, the trainers would do their training, but they'd mainly do that early in the morning and then after the shows had finished. So
Fun Christmas parties?
Sorry?
Fun Christmas parties?
Oh, yeah, good Christmas
I can
parties.
imagine,
We used
right?
to play cricket down. There was a grass there. We used to play cricket and stuff like that. We'd go surfing at lunchtime. I had a wave ski and we'd all go surfing at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And then you also, other things that I like doing, like putting the audio together and things like that and doing voiceovers for the shows. And we used to do all those as well. It was incredible.
Some of my favourite memories from the stories you tell me about it are the fact that you've met one of your best mates in life through that job, and he was a dolphin trainer.
He was a dolphin trainer. Yeah, Jimmy Coatman came from Narrabeen in the country WA. And he had no experience either. I think he was about 26 or something when he started there. And, we forged a good friendship. And because I lived so far away, I would stay at his place.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was only working 3 days a week then,
Yeah.
but I would just stay there a couple of nights and then come home.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to
Do the
drive
long
so
drive,
far backwards and forwards. And we're still good mates now.
It's funny how it's changed now because now he lives far away from you again, but down south.
Yeah, down south. That's good, because I like going down there when I get a chance and things.
Definitely. What were you most impressed about, or what were you most surprised with? Was it the the dolphins' ability because they're incredibly intelligent.
Unbelievable.
But the sea lions are pretty intelligent too.
Yeah. Dolphins are incredible. And to watch them, especially if they're having a fight, is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because there's squabbles. There were 7 dolphins and they don't all get along.
And what were they
the
doing?
Speed, I'd ram each other and things like that. And the speed, I'd just sit up in the grandstand and just watch them. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Incredible. And there was lots of things that happened because you're doing live shows, and I've always loved doing live shows because anything can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get immediate response from the public because you hear the cheering and things like that. But live shows, I remember one day I should say, I was holding the rope for the high jump. The Dolphins used to go over the high jump. I'm dressed as Captain Cook because it was a bicentennial show. And then the Dolphins have landed on the rope that I'm holding. And then I just went straight into the pool.
Oh, wow.
Then I've got a cordless microphone. Back in those days, they were pretty rare.
Yeah.
You don't want to get it wet. So I'm like the Statue of Liberty. I'm holding it up like this as I went down in the water so it didn't get wet. So then my wig came off and then, but those things, it's good fun. People like that sort of stuff.
Definitely.
And then I jumped back out. Another time, Donna, one of the female trainers there, she was coming out and she had the lycra sort of stuff on her, got hooked up on one of the little screws, and she comes out on a trapeze.
Oh, nice.
So the dolphins dive through this trapeze with all the rings and things like that, and then it was nearly going to, her pants were nearly going to break. And we were just laughing, and we had to yell out to the person out the back who was wheeling her out to take her back in. Yeah, because everything was hanging out, and it was hilarious. I'm standing underneath, and going.
So was the 80s your favourite decade work-wise, and was that the most fun you've had?
That's the best job I've had, but I've had some really good jobs.
Yeah. Was the 80s in general a great decade?
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah.
It's funny, like the last few years, you sort of lose them. But I can tell you where I was in 84 and where I was in 87 and where I was. You sort of remember all those years. I remember all my football years, who was coaching and who I was playing with and all that sort of stuff as well. So, and that was all in the 80s as well.
And then you ended up making the trip over to SeaWorld in Queensland. How did that come about?
Okay, so Atlantis closes down. So I'm trying to get some work in the field that I know. Then I heard that there was a job going at SeaWorld for a compare. So I contacted them. They said, well, you have to apply in person. I thought, oh, great.
Here we go.
So then I had to get a flight across to Queensland, which ironically I'd actually been on holidays there only a year before. So I knew a few of the people and stuff like that. But the job was you had to go there. It cost me $1,200, $600 there, $600 back, just for the interview.
And that's back then too.
Back then, because I couldn't. Because it was at short notice, I had to go in 2 days' time. I couldn't get like now you book 6 months ahead, you'll get a cheap flight.
You must have been nervous for that interview, seeing as though it was a $1,200 interview.
Yeah, well, this is a further story.
Yeah.
So I paid $1,200 to go over there, and then I did the interview, and I got the job. But the criteria was that you must be there for 3 months, otherwise you'll forfeit.
Right.
The money you won't. They'll give you the money back, right?
If you stay, the flight.
They'll give you the money back if you stay there for 3 months. I thought, well, I'll be staying there for 3 months. That's not an issue. Anyway, so I've got the job, and I'm here. And then another DJ guy I knew, he came and lived in this house because I needed some money coming in because I had to rent over there. So I had my station wagon, and I had everything in it. I had everything I owned. I had my wave ski on the top of the car. I had a bike hooked onto the back of my race. I had a bike on the back, and I had all my stuff, all my possessions in the car. And then I drove across Nullarbor.
Nice.
Now I picked up this guy at, I think it was Norseman or something like that, and he said he just wanted to lift across Nullarbor.
Yep.
And I thought it'd be a good bit of company. And he came and he jumped in the car. He had a dog with him.
Oh.
And the dog was, and there was no room. The only room in the car was in the front seat. So the dog was down the bottom in between his legs. And then he was sitting there. He wasn't a bad bloke, but the dog just kept him farting, farting the whole way across the Nullarbor.
That's horrible. How long was he in the car with you for?
He was in the car for a fair while. I can't even remember where I dropped him.
Was he a hitchhiker? Or?
Yeah, basically.
It's funny how
Nullarbor, just waiting.
Not these days, you probably wouldn't do it.
No, you definitely. Yeah, I think that's a lost art is hitchhiking.
Definitely.
Like people used to hitchhike all the time.
That's what my mum tells me about it as well. Yeah. Whereas now that is not a thing, and you wouldn't pull over.
Remember that time we picked up the
German backpackers?
So there was backpackers down the road, and we picked them up and took them up to.
We were like 18 or 19.
Yeah, it was scary.
Dad was like, "Should we get them?" And I was thinking, like, bro, they're gonna think we're like Ivan Milat. Like this is not not normal.
I was coming back from Atlantis one day, and there was a girl on the side of the road, and she was hitchhiking. He says, "Oh, you mind giving me a lift?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And then about 3 blokes came out, they're hiding behind the bush.
Of course.
I had to give them a lift as well.
My mum tells me a story. Her and her friend hitchhiked. Got in a car, bloke picked him up, and then he was really, really sort of. He started becoming really creepy.
Yeah,
they felt like it was really It was, and then but he gets them to their destination, turns around, shows his badge. He was a cop. And he was like, "That's to show you that girls like you shouldn't be hitchhiking. Like it's way too dangerous." You know, that was sort of just a cop who's obviously seen some things.
Imagine if it was a fake
world,
badge.
I know, bro. Yeah.
But these guys were smart because there's no way they're going to pick up.
You're not going to pick up 4
people.
blokes, right?
No.
Yeah. And then what were you thinking?
You were
as soon
thinking,
as the 3 guys came out.
No, I wasn't fearful or anything. I just
but you're just thinking, here we
suck
go.
me in. So then I went across the Nullarbor and drove all the way to obviously Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And I started up a job. I didn't really like it there. It was like Atlantis had about 50 people working there.
Yep.
SeaWorld had 750.
Okay.
Oh,
It's a big,
massive operation.
Massive operation. You just were like a cog in the machine, whereas you felt very important when you worked at Atlantis with the roles that you did. And I was there. I started doing the Dolphin shows. I was only there for 2 weeks, and I saw an ad in the paper for Manpower Australia. Mm-hmm. That's like a Chippendale's show, Manpower Australia, the Thunder from Down Under. And I thought, I'm going to go for that. So I went for an audition again, and only 3 people turned up. And the other 2 guys weren't very good. And yes, I got that job. So then I left SeaWorld after 2 weeks and joined Manpower.
Did Manpower have a name for itself before you joined?
Yeah, they were already going.
It's interesting there was only 3 applicants for that role.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the reason for that is.
Yeah.
Maybe people just didn't think they were equipped for it or something, but I was already working as a compere.
And was that back in Perth? You came or
No, that was in Queensland.
Oh, in Queensland too.
So it was in the local paper, the Gold Coast paper.
Nice.
So that's another reason. There's no sort of internet and stuff in those days, so it was just in the paper. So I went for that and got that job.
Yeah, and then what was that like? Because that's a big. A lot of your stories come from working for Manpower, and where did that job take you? And who are some of the best people you were with there?
Yeah, well, that was fantastic. We went around Australia. Like I'd never been around Australia. Went to every place around Australia, not just the capital cities. We'd work our
Regional
way.
As well.
We'd go up to Cairns and then work our way down from Townsville and Innisfail and all the way down. So I went around Australia twice, Alice Springs, Darwin, everywhere, Tasmania, and then New Zealand the first year, and then also the first year we went to USA, America was the first time.
Yeah.
And that was the first time they'd been over there.
Yeah.
So it was hard work because they weren't known. So off we went to America and Canada.
Yeah. And then for those who are watching, what were you doing? And so like these are like male strippers.
Yeah, dancers.
Dancers. So they're on stage and you would welcome them onto the stage?
Yeah, they were doing an Australian show. Mm-hmm. So everybody would be a character.
Right.
We'd have a Crocodile Dundee who would come out in a crocodile suit, actually in a crocodile, and then he'd rip the suit open. So I'd have a little spiel on each of these people.
Right.
We had Ned Kelly, because the Americans, they didn't have a clue who these people were. So you had to explain
what their
who they
significance
were.
is, yeah.
We had like a guy dressed up like a jolly swagman and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that was fantastic because basically I was just introducing the acts, getting the crowd going, and only worked like 2 hours a night.
And it took you to some places around the world that you'd never seen before. So it was a great...
it was incredible. We did a 2-week season in Lake Tahoe at a ski resort.
Yep.
So we just go skiing every day. It was amazing.
And was the crowd like 95% women, or was it?
Yeah. But so normally 95% would be women. Yeah.
What were the favourite cities or shows that you did from memory?
Big shows. I remember doing one on the Gold Coast at the casino there, and it was about 1,500 people.
Yep.
But a lot of the shows in the big leagues clubs around Sydney, they all hold about 1,200.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would double up. We would do a show like at 6 o'clock and then another one at 9 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think we did 36 days in a row just doing shows.
There would have been, like we hear it from a lot of the musicians we get on or even comedians that tour, it's a lot of hard work and you're tired most of the time. Was that the same case?
Yeah, you're tired, but sometimes you're tired just from lack of sleep, and you're in the little minibus and off you'd go again. But you sort of get yourself up for the show. But it was harder for the guys because they were actually dancing and stuff like that. But no, it was fantastic. I loved it. The only thing I didn't like was all the travel around, like being in the minibus, and then when we went to America, we arrived at Las Vegas, and our first show was in Reno. But Reno is 400 miles, not kilometres, 400 miles away in Nevada as well. So then we'd get on a little bus and off we'd go to do our show. And I didn't really like all that sort of stuff, but it was good fun.
And during that time, obviously, the technology wasn't as good as it is now. So
near it, right?
You can't watch Netflix, or you can't, like, it was a different time.
No.
Playing cards.
Let's say you had like a 7-hour drive. What are you doing in that time? You're playing cards? Are you trying to get some sleep? Or?
Yeah, some guys are trying to get sleep. Yeah, no, we normally play cards and stuff like that. Which it was just different. Like Jamie Jury was in the group at the time, and like, because the guys used to shave their legs and stuff, and then his hair used to grow really quickly. Right. He had his shorts on, I was sitting next to him, it would like be pricking into me.
Yeah.
Just all these little things. I remember one show the other guys, I think we were in a van and they were in a different van, and their van broke down, and it's only me and Jamie had a show, and we're waiting for the other guys, and this is an hour after the show should have started, and they still haven't arrived.
Oh. Yeah.
So we're just sitting there, and I'd make an announcement, the boys are on the way, they're coming shortly, and
that would have
been
a
great night and
all
this sort of stuff.
You would have been stressed in that moment, right?
Yeah, to a point, yeah.
There's nothing you can do, but you're, at that moment in time, you're the face. Like, everyone's looking at you and Jamie going, oh.
Yeah, I think I was only making announcements around the back, actually.
Okay, right.
I don't think I was coming onto the stage. Just saying they're on their way, being held up and all that sort of stuff. So, no, that was incredible. I went to Canada several times. Went to Nova Scotia, which is right across the other side. Worked in a place, Ottawa. Ottawa's the capital of Canada. And right across the other side of the little river is a place called Hull, and that is in Quebec, which is French. Right. So you'd go across the bridge and everything would be in French.
Would it almost feel like you're in a different country?
You were. It was all cobblestones and all that sort of stuff, like you guys going to Europe.
Yeah.
And the McDonald's signs would be in French, and it was amazing.
And then how did your time at the Thunder Down Under, how did that end?
Oh, I worked there for 2 years, and I thought, well, I loved doing the show, but I didn't really like being away that much, and didn't like sitting in the minibus and just driving around all the time. And I thought, well, even if I do this for 3 or 4 years, I've still got to come back to something.
Yeah.
And I already had my DJ compare business going here. And when I come back, like, I'd be home for about 12 weeks of the year maybe. I'd go and do some shows just to try and keep my handy. Yeah. And I thought, well, if I don't leave now, I'm not going to have anything to come back to. So, I came back, and then I started getting all my shows going here again.
Just back on Manpower for a second, how many months of the year were you travelling?
I reckon, well, it's about 40 weeks it was.
Right.
So it's
a lot,
like 12
most
months
of the year.
Yeah, that's
we'd come home, and then sometimes we'd be, you're coming home for 3 weeks, but then Billy would ring up and say, oh, look, I've just got another tour. You're only home for a week, and then you're off again.
Yeah. And just before, sorry to interrupt, before Manpower, did you have a relationship or anything? Because it would have been really hard to take that job and then travel around the world.
Yeah, it was. Well, no, I didn't have a relationship when I started in Manpower.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you came back here, and then was that when you really kick-started your own business?
Yeah, no, it was still going anyway.
Yeah.
It just started picking that up again, and then so I'd already done some football commentary back in the late 80s.
And there was that Sunday Footy League.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, Sunday Footy League. Station 6R started calling Sunday Footy. And I thought, and I'd finished my career by then, and I thought, well, I'd like to do that. And I sort of got my foot in because the year before they wanted a boundary rider for the grand final. So I was the boundary rider for the grand final. And then the next year, one of the guys moved up to doing the waffle. So I got the job as a commentator, went up to the Wacker and had a little tape recorder and recorded a practice game, and then became a commentator there.
And that was something that you did for a very long time. A lot of my earliest memories were, at the footy while you were doing commentary or announcing. So talk us through how you got into the radio commentary for AFL, and then also you did waffle for a long time, and then also the announcing at the Wacker.
Yeah, so obviously I went away with Manpower, came back, started doing my own shows. So I wasn't doing any commentary, but then Colin Minson, who a lot of people in Perth would know, he rang me up because he remembered me doing the commentary back in the late 80s, early 90s, and he said, oh, look, I'm looking for a commentator for the Waffle. I said, yeah, okay. So he said, I'll do it. And so I worked with Percy Johnson, who's a legendary commentator, who I used to listen to when I was a boy.
Yeah.
So that was nervous. Talk about nervous. So I'm working with a legend of broadcasting, Percy Johnson. So, yeah, I started doing the Waffle again, and then Minnow says, oh, we've got a deal with the National Indigenous Radio Service, which is the NIRS, and they are going to be commentating AFL games in Perth. So, I did 5 or 6 years calling for them in Perth. So I did all the games when Judd and Kerr and Cox and Cousins and all those guys were playing when they had their rival with Sydney. I did a drawn grand final at Subiaco Oval with Collingwood. Collingwood and West Coast drew. Then they had to play extra time.
What was that? What final?
It was a semi-final or something. They had to play extra time, so it was a weird. Collingwood won eventually. I did Fremantle's first ever final against Essendon. I lost. Yeah, so I did a lot of big games over here.
The one that sticks in my head was the Justin Longmuir goal after the siren.
Yeah, I was commentating that night. I wasn't actually commentating when he kicked the goal, but yeah, I was commentating that night.
And then you actually got to commentate during a good period for WA teams. Like they were both fairly competitive during that time, weren't they?
Yeah, especially around that 06 sort of mark. Because I remember doing a final on a Friday night. I think it was Fremantle. And then on the Saturday night, I was doing a West Coast final.
Yeah, that would have been good.
And Jamison was just a toddler.
Yeah.
The box, we were lucky, we wouldn't get away with it now, but the box we had was quite big. So he would come up and be in a little, he'd just be laying on the floor.
Nice.
In the background. Yeah, that was good fun.
And then onto the cricket. So you had a lot of time at the Wacker and you got to announce some pretty special moments. What were some of those moments and what was the announcing at the Wacker like?
No, that was good. It was 2002 I started there and did it till 2019, so 17 years. I announced a lot of huge events. I did the very first T20 game ever in Australia in 2005. Tony Dodemaide was the CEO and he played in England. Said, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this 2020 game.
So the first game was in Perth?
Yep. It wasn't an official. It wasn't an official game.
Okay, it was like a tester.
Yeah, it was a tester, but it was the Victorian Bushrangers playing against the Perth side, the West Australian side, and of course, who plays for the Bushrangers? Shane Warne.
Right.
Oh wow. Okay.
So Shane Warne's playing, and he had a relationship with Tony Dodemaide. They knew each other. They played cricket, with each other and against each other, and so they were coming over to play Sheffield Shield in a one-day game anyway. So they did a 20 game, and they were really low prices. It was like $6 for adult, $4 for kids to get in. So
crazy price.
They had to shut the gates.
Because there was that many people that wanted to come.
It was officially 20,700 there, but I reckon it was more like 25,000. It was just packed.
Yeah.
And the game was quick. Like when someone got out, they'd run onto the field.
Yeah.
And I was doing the announcing and playing the music because obviously being a DJ, I was doing the music as well.
Yeah.
And it was just hectic.
Right.
But it was incredible. I'll never forget that as long as I live. The very first T20 game in Australia. I did the Ashes wins. They won in 2002, 2006 at the Wacker. I went out with the cordless microphone and announced those when they'd won the game outside. I did Adam Gilchrist's 100 off 57 balls, which was going to break the world record, but then they started bowling wide of the stumps.
Yeah.
I announced Matthew Hayden's 380, and that was at the time the world highest score. He went past Brian Lara's score, then Brian Lara got 400 later on.
Wow.
And another big fun and a funny story is that in Ricky Ponting's last game in 2012, I think it was, so everybody wants to see Ricky Ponting. He's at the Wacker again, and I'm announcing. And he was about to come onto the field for his last ever innings, and I had my 10x50 binoculars, and I'm on the opposite side of the ground. I looked into the dressing room, and I could see that Nathan Lyon was padded up. He was going to come out as the night watchman. But only I knew that, but no one else knew because they all thought that Ricky Ponting's coming out. And then they all stood up and started applauding.
Nathan Lyon walks out.
And I said, this is probably the biggest announcement. I said as loud as I could.
Yeah.
And the incoming batsman for Australia is Nathan Lyon.
Yeah.
And then the crowd just went, boo. Oh. You just hear him go, whoa, like that. Oh, it's funny.
That's good. That's a great story. And then you're also a marriage celebrant?
I am.
So this was something that you did, how long ago now?
Oh, it's probably about 5-6 years ago now. It's not something I find it a little bit mundane with all the shows that I've done. So I only do family and friends, but I've done a few weddings. Did my good mate Louis Milstead's daughter's wedding about a year ago, so that was good fun. Yeah.
And you've actually learnt a few quirks and little things about the industry recently, haven't you? About marriages and like being able to marry.
Oh, your cousins can get married and all this
crazy,
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You can marry your auntie and uncle and stuff.
Get married as well, yep.
Oh, you can legally do that?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
It seems wrong.
What kind of cousin? Like first?
Yeah, first cousins. I thought it was only second cousins, but I'm pretty sure it's just cousins.
Auntie and uncle and first cousin is crazy.
Yeah, no.
Oh, so you can marry that? Whoa, because your cousin would be like your son-in-law.
Yeah, that's...
You married your auntie. What?
Just a few little things here that Bridie's given us, right? The bell ringing story.
Oh, okay.
Is this a story worth telling?
Oh, it's just quickly. At primary school, they had a bell. There wasn't a siren, and you could only ring the bell in year 7, and you got it for a week. So you waited and waited. Everybody wanted to ring the big bell, not a little bell.
Yep.
You had a hook, and then you go up and you'd ring this bell. And then I came to my time. I've been waiting for 7 years to ring the bell, and then I was given the hook. And you just carried the hook around with pride, around the school. I'm the bell ringer. Yeah. And so I would go and ring the bell, and then I was the big man. And like sometimes the teachers say, go and ring it now, a couple of minutes early. You think you're really good. But you'd walk around with the hook. But one day, all the kids were playing, and they kept on running around the corner, and I kept hooking them up with the, with the hook. No. As soon as they came around, I'd hook them up, they'd fall over.
That's elite.
But I didn't realise that the principal and vice principal were just looking out a window, and they saw me. So I was called up to the office. I didn't get the cane back in those days. I didn't get the cane, but I was confiscated from having the actual hook
on the
to
one
ring the
day
bell. I'd been waiting for 7 years. I did it for a day.
There you go.
We've got this one, hiding in the bamboo from the police.
Oh, my God.
What happened?
I went through a stop sign on my push bike.
Okay.
Policeman saw me. He chased me. I went through the shopping centre. He saw me again. And he chased me down to Red Rooster where we used to live. And then I just got off my bike and ran down to the bamboos.
So the bamboos down near the river, was it?
Yeah, down near the rivers and hidden the bamboos.
Getting locked up with your friend?
Oh, okay. Well, now we're going into different territory to get... That's when I... was with Macca, my mate, and we're at the Horseshoe Bridge, and we'd had a couple of drinks. Back in those days, you used to have a couple of drinks, and now you just get an Uber. And then he's shunting me at the lights, like he's bashing his car into me.
Oh, my God, bro.
Like,
bump.
And he's laughing, because he's looking in the rear vision mirror, and he's laughing away. And he was a lot more drunk than what I was. Anyway, right next to him was a police car. So we both got pulled up, both got thrown in the clink. Yeah. Actually, in the holding cell in Perth. Yeah, so we're in there, they take off all your laces and all this stuff, had our fingerprints taken and everything, and he said, we're going to laugh about this one day.
Yeah, and now you are.
We're laughing about it now, but I wasn't laughing about it at the time.
Bridie's put this one in, standing on an old turtle.
Oh, yes. I went to on some of the Pacific cruises I went on years and years ago. Yeah. You go into all the islands, like Cook Islands and Tahiti and places like that, and then have these like tortoises and stuff that were hundreds of years old because they live for a long, long time.
Yeah, they do, yep.
Yeah, and they said, it's big, you can stand on it. And I thought, are you sure? And they said, yep.
Yeah. And then the last thing that my beautiful sister has sent in is the car accident where you nearly died.
Well, yeah. What happened, Paula, my friend, has been a friend for a long, long time. We'd coming back from, they used to have Sunday sessions back in those days. Now the pubs are open all day. They're only open from 4:30 to 7:30 on a Sunday, so everybody go out.
Must have been magic.
Yeah. And then we're coming home from a session, and we're driving along what is now like Tonkin Highway, but where there's an island, they had sandbags.
Right.
And she clipped one of the sandbags, went into the bush, and it was like, you know how they say your life slows down?
Is that what happened?
Everything was like in slow motion, you know. I'm just sort of slowing right down, and the car's going through the bush, and then we crashed on top of railway tracks, right? And so the cars are right off. Well, we actually weren't that badly hurt, apart from your sort of back soreness and stuff. But guess what was happening? A train was coming along the railway track, but it was only shunting.
Right.
So it was just going slow. And then a guy who was, I think, something to do with the trains, he put his vehicle on the road with his orange lights on.
Oh, luckily.
Yeah, so the train didn't keep on going and just wipe us off.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you want to talk about this or not. You can. We don't have to. Cancer diagnosis. Do you want to talk about that or no?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So obviously I've been working up until the start of this year. I was still doing a little bits and pieces, and then my brother died of complications from prostate cancer. So he got it when he was 59. Was diagnosed when he was 59. So ever since then, because he got diagnosed, I've been getting my PSA done. And anybody who's watching this who's got a family member who's 50 or even under 50, they should get their PSA done every year. It's only a blood test.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Anyway, so my PSA for the first time had gone over 4. That's the sort of cut-off point.
Yep.
And my doctor said, I think you should go and see a urologist. And the urologist said, look, I think that you should have this removed. He said, you can have radiation, but sometimes radiation doesn't work and might get outside the prostate. So then I had to have the prostate removed. And I tell you what, it's no easy process.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling now, and it's sort of 10 weeks after the operation.
Yeah.
But it's still better than dying, because eventually it gets out of the prostate and gets into your bones and other parts of your body. And my brother, he went through a lot.
Yeah.
Over many, many years before he eventually passed away.
Well, I thought it was important to bring that up just so our listeners could potentially give that message, pass that message on to whether it's their parents, uncles, aunties.
Whatever.
Yeah, I was watching a show last night, I think it was Current Affair or something, and a guy was only 50 and he's passed away. Because what happens, blokes don't get it checked. And it's not hard, just go and have the blood test and get your cholesterol done and all that sort of stuff at the same time.
So is this just a general GP appointment you can book, or is it a special one?
No, it's just go and see a GP. I just want to have a checkup. I'll go again in a month's time and say, get my cholesterol done. They've already done my PSA again. It's virtually nil now because obviously it's been removed. But it's not an easy process, as you've seen me the last few weeks. I haven't even been able to sit down properly. Even now I've got cushions underneath me, but I'm getting there slowly. Yeah.
And then just taking another turn into a completely different subject, I was just curious to know your favourite bands or favourite music artists over time, because obviously your job has been music for a large part of it. So who are your favourites?
Well, I go right back to the 70s, obviously. I mean, I love Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. They're all pretty heavy bands, but then Led Zeppelin had Stairway to Heaven, which is a lot sort of softer song when it starts. So they were the bands I listen to when I do a workout downstairs. I've got all rock music on, basically. But I like any sort of music. Anything that gets people on the dance floor. Yep.
You've learned that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you've got there that you want to speak about, or have we?
No, not really. I think we've just about covered. I'll tell you what. I've been the last few years since I've been doing all my own shows, and you came to one of them. I was really sick that night, but that has given me a lot of satisfaction. Because a lot of these other shows that I go into are already up and running. They're established shows, and I'm just a part of it. But these shows I put together myself. And that gives you a lot of satisfaction when people are ringing you up saying, "Oh, we want your show." So I do all these retro bingo, Hollywood bingo, all these different rock and roll bingo, and all these different shows, which are music and videos. And I love doing shows with music, so it gets me going, gets the crowd going, and it's just a really good atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's what I would think would be hard from your point of view was changing with the times to not just have the old shows you do, to change, make a new show and then have video and audio to make it more interactive. Like you wouldn't have been able to done that in the 80s or 90s as much.
No, wouldn't have been easy because the video makes it more like a concert. Yeah. Not only are they hearing the artist, they're seeing the artist on the screen as well. So no, I've really, really enjoyed that. Yeah. So whether I get back to that, I'm not too sure.
And then the last question we ask every single guest that's came on the show, this question: how would you like to be remembered?
Just a decent person.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all the other stuff, all the stuff you do with your work now. That's great. But just a decent person who tried to do the right thing.
That's good.
Got to be happy with that.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on.
Blast from the past.
Definitely.
It's good to hear about the good old days and Atlantis. What a place.
I know.
Yeah, what a few years of work. Gym, Atlantis, Manpower. Is that what it? Yep. Unreal.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky that I was able, once I sold my business, I was able to pay my house off. Mm-hmm. Because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to do.
Oh, because that gave you a bit more freedom, didn't it?
Because if you're paying a mortgage and things like that,
bills have to be paid. Yeah,
because when you're working, you don't know. You might work like 3 weeks and then not work for 3 weeks. So you need to have that regular income coming in. So no, I was lucky like that.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. I love you and appreciate you, and I'm proud of you.
I love you too.
And thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Jamo and Dylan Show. Make sure to subscribe to the boys on YouTube and share the podcast with a mate.